This is breaking news coming in from Washington, and the White House has shared Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza just ahead of the press conference that has been delayed. Point 1 says U.S. will establish a dialogue between Israel and Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. Point number 2, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. The readout also says if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. The White House read also says, in the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal above, including scaled up an operation or aid operation, will proceed in terror-free areas handed over from IDF to ISF, a critical part of Trump's proposed plan. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. Additionally, once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7, 2023. Further, the proposed peace plan says the IDF will withdraw based on standards, milestones and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between IDF, ISF, guarantors and US for every Israeli hostage whose remains are released. Israel will release remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Additionally, the US will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. Another part of the deal, members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries, but Hamas and other factions agreed to not have any role in governance in Gaza, directly, indirectly, or in any form. It is important to note that anything agreed today still has to be agreed to by Hamas, which is not represented in these negotiations. Well, the proposal also says that no one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. Entry of distribution and aid in Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from two parties through the United Nations and its agencies. The Red Crescent. More from Trump's plan, a special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created. Gaza's future, according to the proposal, is this. Gaza will be governed under temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians, international experts, with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body. This committee will be headed and chaired by Trump, with other members, heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set framework, handle funding for redevelopment of Gaza until such a time as Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program. So those are the proposals that have been laid by the White House just before the press conference between the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Susan Teherani is our correspondent. She is now joining us on the phone from New York. Susan, this press conference has been delayed by an hour. Do we know why?
It appears that they're still talking and trying to iron out some differences. Earlier, there was a readout from the White House that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with the Qatari emir, apologized for the loss of life of a Qatari soldier during its assault against Qatar in trying to target Hamas officials, and they sort of patched things up with the mediation of President Trump. There is also speculation that because prior to this plan that was released and a hope for a ceasefire, every time the United States and Israel agreed on something, Hamas would come back and reject it. The question remains whether or not they're waiting to get at least some semblance of a green light from Hamas regarding this plan before they come out and announce anything. So that might also be a reason.
All right, and we also had the apology of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Many are saying that President Trump was angry and he actually untwisted the Israeli Prime Minister to apologize.
Yeah, we got a readout of that immediately as well, that this call was made. This trilateral phone call was hosted by President Trump. As we were reporting earlier and we were talking, there were reports that President Trump actually talked to the Emir of Qatar before Prime Minister Netanyahu joined, and they made another conversation and another telephone call. The president expressed his desire to put Israeli-Qatar relations on a positive track after years of mutual grievances and miscommunications. This is according to the White House readout. The leaders accepted the president's proposal to establish a trilateral mechanism to enhance coordination, improve communication, and resolve mutual grievances and strengthen collective efforts to prevent threats. Again, according to that. As a first step, Prime Minister Netanyahu expressed his deep regret regarding the Israeli missiles. So that really is the gist of this phone call. And yes, it does appear that President Trump knows that it is Qatar who can ultimately mediate effectively between Hamas and the Israelis, and also to a certain extent the Palestinian Authority that's very weakened but at least exists in the Palestinian territories and in the future of Gaza.
All right, that is Susan Teherani. She's our correspondent. She's in New York. Susan, stay with me as we wait for this press conference to kickstart. It has been delayed by over an hour now, and we do understand that it's about to begin. That is Steve Witkoff I see there, indicating that the president and the Israeli Prime Minister are just set to get into the press conference in a short while from now. But before that, the president had released a comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. Gaza will be a de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza, who have suffered more than enough. If both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after the October 7, 2023 attack, including all women and children detained in that context. This is a 20-point plan. It went on to read, for every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19, 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, that is water, electricity and sewage, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open the roads. The plan also reads, entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies and the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the January 19, 2025 agreement. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. The plan reads, this committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such a time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program, as outlined in various proposals, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on the best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment.